Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 4 and episode number 584 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. Buy us. No, we're not for sale. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him. Hey, Mr. Beaver A. And with me is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Apologies for the late start today. As you know, I have a cold and had a bit of a coughing fit before we started today's show, so I needed for it to pass. So thank you for your patience. And I think you can hear it in my voice because I got a little extra grizzly bass today, especially if I really go down like this, which I normally can't hit. So it's only when I get a cold that I can sing Barry White. Got it together, babe. Yeah, we really got it together, babe. Just you and me, damn fam. Can't get enough of your love, babe. You're my first, my last, and my everything. Actually, my Beaver Sweetie is my first, my last, my everything, but you're very close second. I'm your today recording day is I believe it is, I don't know what day it is, it's Wednesday. February, I'm going to guess the 20th, 19th. I'm all off on my dates today. When you get a cold, you kind of just check out of the world because you're doing self-care. 19th. Yes. 2025. And it's a gorgeous day here at the Beaver Lodge. And we're getting to the point in February where if you're actually up at 6:30 in the morning, you actually see blue in the sky now and not just black. So yay.
It is cold out in the nation's capital,
Yes.
though. It's minus 16, feels like minus 27. It's supposed to warm up a bit today, but I'm looking at the long-range forecast, and quite honestly, we're not looking at warm weather anytime soon. Let's see. Well, Monday it'll be 0. Next Monday, 0. So, and that's also the 24th of February. Normally, as you well know, in the nation's capital during winterlude, we get a thaw, about 4 or 5 days of really mild, warm weather and rain, and the canal gets shut down. Didn't happen this year.
Nope.
Didn't happen. It's been consistently cold, and most of the snow we've got this winter has happened in the last, 5 days?
Yep. Apparently, there are certain places that have gotten more snow in the past couple of days than all of last winter. I think in Kingston, where we are, we got more snow accumulation on those 2 days than we got all last winter.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
It was, but it's like winter finally arrived in February, which is also weird. And last year we had a pretty mild winter, but we had like a 1 week, like really nasty cold snap in February as well. I think it was last year.
Yes,
but odd for us.
And it wasn't enough. Yeah, it wasn't enough to open the canal. I mean, the canal was only open for like 3 days last year. The snow conditions were, if you're a skier or anybody who likes winter sports last year, it was just brutal.
Yeah.
If you had a snow machine, I knew a buddy who just bought a new skidoo or snow machine. We don't say skidoo anymore, apparently.
Oh, we don't. Okay.
No, it's the snow machine. I'm
Okay.
still a skidoo to me, but he bought a new machine and didn't get to use it last year because there was just not enough. And this year, it's as of February, it's been good to him. But we had cold weather in December because the outdoor rinks were open on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Then we had a bit of a warm spell. Then we went back to winter. Then we had 2 days of warmth and back to winter, and it's stayed winter ever since, which I'm fine with because at least when it's consistent, you can dress accordingly for
Right.
it. You can do things in like it, you know, if it's December, late December, and it's raining and it's 0, what do you do in that? I mean, it's miserable. I
Mhm.
know some people will ride their bike, but I'm aware, folks, that Skidoo is a brand. I know that. We just growing up, that's what
Yeah.
we called them,
Like
Skidoos.
Kleenex
Yeah, yeah.
instead of tissues.
I know, snow machine. I know.
See, when you think snow
When I
machine, when
lived
you
in New
think
Brunswick, they called them bombardier, no
uh,
bombardier.
yes. See, when you say snow machine, I think about making snow on a ski hill,
Yeah.
right?
I hear you.
So we say, I don't know if snow. I thought it was snowmobile, not snow machine.
Snowmobile is what I would say, but
Yeah,
apparently
that's what I
people
had when
say
I was
snow
growing up.
machines now. So, skidoo or a snowmobile?
Yeah, snowmobile for me. So weather-wise here, if you're part of the GTA, the weather travel advisory that had been put up has been lifted. So that's good. But said that those areas could see 5 more centimeters of snow as well as poor visibility due to gusty winds and blowing snow. If you're in Newmarket, Georgina, North York, Oshawa, Pickering, Southern Durham, there could be there's no longer snow squall warning as of this morning, but there could be again near zero visibility with heavy and blowing snow. Um, and those areas could see 5 to 10 centimeters of snow on top of what has already fallen. Um, and if you happen to be in BC, Alberta, and there's also other heavy weather warnings for you. If you're in the prairies, Environment Canada is calling it a prolonged extreme cold event that will bring a wind chill of nearly minus 50 in certain parts of the West. Yikes. And it's expected to drop to extremes overnight. In that sense, there are more than 100 extreme cold warnings as of 4:30 yesterday afternoon in parts of southern Manitoba. And the warnings are expected to remain in place for at least a few more days. The warning issued to cities including Brandon and Winnipeg has cautioned against frostbite. So I do hope that the warming centers and all that kind of stuff are open. As of Tuesday afternoon, there are more than 300 extreme cold weather warnings in Saskatchewan, including Saskatoon, I'm thinking of Bjork. Yeah, I was thinking of Bjork yesterday because it came up in a conversation like this. And Bjork, when she was with the Sugar Cubes, had a song called Regina.
Mm-hmm. Not Regina.
I was about to say Regina because I was thinking of Bjork. Regina.
Welcome to Regina. Remember they had a tourism thing in Regina a
Yes.
couple of years ago. So it's, show us your Regina.
Yes.
Go around taking photos of the city. I'm like,
Yep.
it's cheeky, but a lot of people didn't care for it.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I did that the other day too with the on Flag Day. It's like, yeah, show me your beaver. If you're Canadian, show me your beaver.
You could probably get away with that with the whole being gay thing, whereas a cis guy like me, a cis het, no. I will be called out on that every single time. So I shan't say those words.
Membership has privileges.
Yes, yeah. Rainbow pass.
I can joke about them because I don't want them.
Yeah, fair point. Before we jump in here, because there are a few headlines we need to discuss today, and very Trumpian things going on in the world. The leading headline that I started off with is how the USA has become a fascist state, and
Yes.
we'll dive into that in a minute. But I did want to share something with you that I thought closer to home and an example of how not to behave. So Michael DeAdder, who we've not met, but I'd love to be able to get him on the show at some point.
Yeah.
A great political cartoonist, and
Yes.
his commentary is really spot on. And this is another example of it. He says, if you have over 200,000 followers, the impact you can have on a business or even a cyclist should be respected. I'm not sure the backlash from this tweet matches the complaint. Also, we're facing unusually cold weather. If it couldn't be handled with understanding, it should have been handled with a private phone call. Brian Lilley.
Yes, Brian proving to the world that he is not happy unless he is miserable. Go ahead, Mr. Grizzly.
Hey, Uber Eats, I paid for fast delivery. It took an hour. The food is cold. Your customer service site doesn't let me submit anything. Why am I paying you extra money for people who don't bring my food directly to me and instead ride a bike all over town in the freezing cold? Keto Grill and Bakery and Riz. You do realize a human just rode a bike around in the cold to bring you a sandwich? Brian Lilley. I didn't realize he would also do a tour of the wider neighborhood after I paid for fast delivery.
So Brian Lilley thinks that the way that Uber Eats works is that he places an order, they make his order, and then they take his order and only his order, and then send a guy out in the cold to deliver it just to him and not make a round or a circuit or anything.
Look, it's winter.
That's the world Brian Lilley lives in.
I rarely ever use food delivery services. Bridget uses them frequently. I almost never do because I hate paying the extra service fees and that. But the other day I was very hungry and I was tired and I just didn't feel like putting on 9 layers of clothes. So I ordered something from a local burger joint. And it didn't take long to get here. And when it got here, it wasn't exactly hot. And did I complain? No. It was minus 25 out.
You put it in the microwave for a couple of seconds.
12 seconds in the microwave and it was perfect. I'm not going to... Look, if you're ordering food and getting it delivered and you expect it to be piping hot when you get it, you're a stupid person.
There's a thing called time. And heat dissipates over time. And if you're not there close to the place where they prepared it, then there's time between the time it's prepared and it gets to you. So it gets cooler. It's just science. But then again, I mean, we're talking about people who, not all pro evolution. So
this is from Linda. He's right up there with the assholes who deliberately order a pizza during a blizzard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So my only thought is maybe the delivery person saw that it was for Brian and decided to put him on.
I'll take a few extra laps. That would be fun.
Be nice to people on the way up.
Be nice to people who bring you your food.
Mm-hmm. It's the same thing we had during COVID, right? Be nice to the people who showed up.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
It's minus 20 something with the wind chill. The guy's on a bicycle. I'm sorry. I'm Canadian and I'm built tough, but I was like, excuse me. Sorry. Really can't come in today.
Oh, here's a good comment though regarding this.
25 on a bike? Who wants that?
There's a good comment from this. I didn't realize he would also do the tour of the wider neighborhood after I paid for fast delivery. He said, and somebody responded with, he wants to tear out the bike lanes. Somebody else commented, bike lanes are 100% a subsidy for food delivery. I'm like, yeah, that's a zinger.
One thing. Whoever put that, 100 beaver points. Well played. Whoever you are. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, Brian, come on.
Yeah.
This is just... Listen,
he's not happy unless he's miserable.
We all have things that happen, and then we go online and we complain about them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The number of times this year I've complained about buses not being there. Like, Kingston Transit, what the hell is going on with you? I've been at this bus stop for 45 minutes. You said the bus was coming in 3. Like, ugh. So, and this year, for some reason, it was just really bad on public transit. For some reason, I don't know why it was. But from September, they brought in some new routes, I think, and probably didn't have things calculated correctly. But from September till January, I think I'd been late for curling, something like 10 times because of buses not being on time or late. And that's more times than I've been late in the whole previous 9 years combined. So, I mean, the bus service here is pretty good. And it just fell off for a few months. There was like everything was just not late and not arriving on time. You couldn't depend on it for a bit. But they got it fixed. So I don't know what happened, but they did get it fixed. But we all do that, and sometimes, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I went this. And, you do that. And then, like Starbucks, there's been times where, it's like, I open up the cup and it's like, I ordered a venti and it's like, there's only liquid about halfway. Like, I know I ordered whipped cream, but I didn't order half a cup of whipped cream and half a cup of hot chocolate. I ordered a full cup of hot chocolate with a little bit of whipped cream. I take a picture. It's like, what the hell? It's like, oh, sorry, we'll get you another one. Okay. But so, I mean, we all do that, but it's like, my food is cold.
Yeah.
When it's -25 outside, you order it in, and the guy's bringing it on a bike.
Maybe be a little bit more understanding.
Dude, come on.
And look, we all have those moments where we get pissed off. I get it. I get it. But, as Michael DeAtter just said, if you have a following of 200,000 people, maybe handle it in a private phone call. Or maybe just heat it in the microwave and go, oh, well.
And move on with your life. It's like, do you really need to invest these precious moments of your life in this pursuit?
Yeah.
Like this. And now he's got all these people, laughing at him, mocking that, that he's either blocking or responding to or trying to justify or whatnot. And now we all know that Brian Lilley doesn't care about his reputation because he does what he does. So, I mean, if he did, he wouldn't be cashing that paycheck anymore. So
well, who was it who effectively murdered him last week online when he went on about
Barbara LeVesque.
Yes.
Yeah. Freddy Krueger still has the blades over his eyes going, ugh, girl. That one.
Brian Lilley complained about Barbara LeVesque, saying she's a nobody, nothing, or something to that effect. And she responded with, you're a supposed conservative Catholic who left their wife and children to bed down with the media director for Doug Ford while you suckle at the teat of government funding. I'm not getting it exactly right, but it was along those lines. It was pretty brutal. It was a good takedown.
It was brutal.
He had no response.
Nope. No. Well, that's what he does. He either has he either responds once and then you clap back and then he goes, oh, or he blocks you.
Yeah, no blocking.
Yeah. I tore a strip off him once I got blocked. And I don't care because this guy, like I said, you can't do what he does and still claim you care about what you look like. I mean, come on. So, clearly, either he thought that his engagement was down and figured if he said something really stupid and entitled, he'd get a lot of engagement and his numbers would go up. I don't know. We're getting close to the end of the month. Maybe he needs to make ends meet. It's inflation for everyone, right?
What happened is in this instance, though, instead of increasing his engagement, people just took screenshots and then replied accordingly. So that way he doesn't get any numbers.
Perfect. That's exactly what you do. Same thing, by the way, with anything, National Post and Sunshine or whatnot like this. You could share the articles or you could just grab a screen cap and then just comment on it like this. Because, since we're doing the boycott and, since we are 100% Canadian, yes.
And National Post is American owned. So
we're not the most objective on the subject, but the boycott could include American-owned media that pretends to be Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. That's why we say by us.
Let me show you another quick graphic here, and then we can get into the meat of the day. This one from person says impossible, showing the Liberal surge and the Conservative drop, and they're saying election 25, the Liberals are likely to win. Except this fella here says, hang on, whoops, that's not what I wanted. Where did it go? Hang on. Oh, here it is. Yeah, sorry, my apologies. There's this weird glitch in human psychology where a non-insignificant percentage of people will vote for who they think is going to win rather than who they want to win. Makes them feel like they won, I guess. I believe the media is exploiting this to try to swing the election.
Okay.
What election?
Okay, now,
it's not scheduled until 2026. It could happen in 2025, but it's not scheduled before then. I spelled scheduled wrong. I put 2 Ds in it.
Oh, yeah.
There's no election been called. That's my take. There's no election that's been called.
Yeah. So this is, you get some blue check mark accounts that, I'm on those, right, in the clown emoji, and then you get some people that try to pretend to be pseudo-intellectual.
Yes.
That's what this thing is here. There's nothing about that's that, because if this is unbelievable, then equally unbelievable should have been the Conservatives at 50. I mean, have you seen these people? They're dogs. I guess hit. So if you weren't saying unbelievable when Angus Reid had a poll showing the Liberals at 16.
Why aren't you saying it now? Yeah.
Then it's not unbelievable that there is a narrowing of the gap as the election is nearing. As I've been telling everybody what happened for the past year and a half.
Yeah.
2 years before the election, kicking the tires, nothing to lose. When you get about a year before the election, sometimes the mean reverts. Did not happen in this case because we had a couple of other big things on the schedule, whether or not the prime minister would resign, whether or not we would get a Trump presidency. And it waited until the Trump presidency. But when it happened, boom, and the prime minister's resignation. But we're reverting to the mean.
Well, and the amount of people screaming, we're leaderless right now. No, we're not.
We're not. No.
The House just isn't sitting. That's it.
That's it. That's it.
It's
You're
like
more
the
leaderless in Ontario right now than you are in Canada.
Well, I mean, in the summer, when the House, shuts down for the summer, does that mean we're leaderless?
No.
This is effectively the same thing. They've just done it when normally the House would be sitting. You
Prorogation means Parliament is temporarily suspended, not government.
Government.
Parliament, not government. The Ontario.
We have to give another.
Citizens of Ontario, residents of Ontario are more leaderless at the current moment by virtue of the fact that we're in caretaker mode in an election than the federal government is because we're in prorogation.
Well, and all these
That's
people screaming
objectively true.
Oh, but it is objectively true. It's factually true. All these people screaming for an election. I'm like, but what election? Nothing's been called.
Yep.
Well, there'll be a non-confidence vote. Will there? We don't know that. We don't even know who the next Liberal leader is. Everybody assumes it's Mark Carney. Maybe it will be. Maybe it won't. We don't know. To say would be to say you have some inside information, which that's a little suspect.
I doubt very much that you have inside information as to how people are going to vote on something when the campaign is not even over yet. And the debates haven't even taken place. But okay. Now, we'll have some more on that. But Mr. Grizzly, you did propose a topic, and I'm going to let you go first with this for two reasons. One, because since I had a cold yesterday and it's mostly focusing on self-care, my preparation for today was very thin. So I only have a couple subjects for you. But if we can, I don't know how much there's to say on this, but if we could deal with him as quickly as possible because he has enough fucking publicity, I would really appreciate that.
Oh, no, but there's
but if there's a lot to say, then we say. There
are two subjects that I want to address, and this is going to be the first one. And just pay attention to this.
Lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish important oversight functions in the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that only the President or the Attorney General can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
Thank you very much, Will.
Sorry,
that was the primary purpose of this.
What?
Not been a long-standing tradition at all.
No, it's never been a tradition. It's like, as I put in the headline, Trump just signed an executive order saying only the president or attorney general can interpret the law. No agencies, no regulators, just him and his handpicked
what about judges? Judges whose job is to interpret the law.
No, his
he just canceled the Supreme Court?
Basically. And
so
they gave him the power to do it.
Only to cancel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to fly.
No, it won't last at all. But I'm like,
well, that's one that won't fly. Listen, if the Supreme Court of the United States has an unstated adopt a justice program, at least for the conservative appointed judges on the Supreme Court, do you really think that these are the people that when this case comes to the Supreme Court, yeah, we're going to vote ourselves out of existence? Thank you.
Basically. Yeah.
No. The Supreme Court, in its decision earlier, that sort of where they declared the Constitution unconstitutional for all intents and purposes, it's the Supreme Court that took the power away from everybody else. We're the final arbiters, the Supreme Court said. Even with agency regulators and whatnot, like this, yes, you can make your regulations and stuff like that, but we're the ones, not experts, that are going to judge whether or not these regulations are actually needed and are sound. We who have no scientific experience whatsoever. But the 9 of us will do that. Well, really the 6 of us, because the other 3 are just for decoration, according to the Republicans. So
Yeah,
But I just want to finish the point is that
go continue.
the Supreme Court did a power grab for itself. Now, if Trump is going to come around and turn around and say, well, Supreme Court, it's like this. No, only I and the Attorney General interpret the law now. And that goes up the courts. The Supreme Court, which just did a power grab for itself, can turn around and say, a computer says no. You don't get it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but how very Viktor Orban?
Well, I'm just hitting on some of the headlines. Trump claims it was Ukraine, not Russia's invasion, that started the war.
Yep. And that had Zelensky really apoplectic. Zelensky, who did not attend the meetings in Saudi Arabia, it turns out, even though they said, because at first he was going to be included, well, it was assumed he would be included, and then they decided he was not going to be included. And then the United States then turned around and said, Europe, you're also not included. And then it's like, well, oh, yeah, Ukraine, you can come. And it's like, Ukraine's watching all this going on. It's like, oh, no, we're not legitimizing these talks by showing up. Thank you very much. You and Vladdy can talk amongst yourself, but that shit ain't happening.
I had a headline here, but it seems to have disappeared. Apparently, he wants to fire all Biden-era U.S. attorneys. So any U.S. attorney appointed during the Biden era, he's just going to fire because they won't do his bidding, I guess. I just... it's full fascist state. Gilead it's just a matter of weeks. Now, they did do something interesting yesterday that I thought, well, that actually seems reasonable. I'm like, but what is it? He signed an executive order aimed at expanding access to IVF and reducing its costs. Now, on the surface, that sounds good. And technically reasonable. Yeah, that
seems like doesn't like that.
But here's the thing. That just means he wants to create more babies, and you cannot have an abortion in any way in many states. I think in Texas, it's up to 99 years in prison for a doctor who prescribes medication.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to nail a doctor in New York City who prescribed medication for a woman in Louisiana for 99 years in prison. We are in Gilead. This is a full fascist state. Don't kid yourselves. It's only a matter of time before theocracy takes over. If you're an American citizen, please find your way out of there as quickly as possible because Project 2025 is being fully enacted. Your rights are being stripped away on the daily. And I'm telling you, if we do not pay attention in this country, it can happen here too. Nobody thought it would happen in, of all places, that great beacon of democracy, the United States of America. But it's happening in real time, right in front of our eyes.
Yep. I'm looking at some stuff here. 2019, Alabama, abortion doctors could face up to 99 years in jail. So that started way back then. January 31st, 2025, New York doctor indicted for prescribing abortion pill. Seems that Louisiana made an extradition request.
Yes.
New York said, nah. A Texas judge fined a New York doctor for prescribing abortion pills to a woman by $100,000 fine. That was 5 days ago. New York has made a move to shield medication prescriptions for abortion medications after Louisiana indicted the doctor, which is just insane. So being indicted for doing your job.
Yeah.
Which is a thing. So yeah, all these things are happening. And parallel to all of this, there's an article from CTV, and I believe this is from Avis Favreau, I would assume, yes, why some female physicians are eyeing a move to Canada from the U.S.
I saw that.
Yes, so it seems that what Trump is doing down there could actually result in a bit of a brain gain for us.
Yes.
Hey, again, if you want to do like that hockey player and punch yourself in the own helmet and take your off. We're not going to stop you, United States. I mean, if you want to implode, we're certainly not going to interrupt you. It's like, geez. But yeah, some female physicians in the U.S. are considering moving north of the border to practice medicine due to the changing political landscape in their country. Anyone looking for a part-time gynecologist in Ontario wrote to Dr. Kirti Patel in a recent post on social media. She says it's the first time in her career she's actively looked at moving to Canada. Well, again, with our accreditation equivalency things, I hope we're going to work on that really, really quickly so that if we do get a rush of doctors from the United States, that they can start practicing right away and don't have to wait like 7 years and go to school all over again. Please, let's clear that up. Jeez. It's a terrifying time for women and women's doctors in the U.S., she told CTV News, pointing to the case of a New York physician criminally charged with prescribing an abortion drug, mifepristone, to a young woman in Louisiana, Texas. Meanwhile, has introduced a 99-year prison sentence for doctors who perform illegal abortions. Patel, she says she lives in a Democratic state in northeastern U.S., although she declined to specify which one. She says she's been in contact with at least one women's health clinic in Quebec and was connected with a physician recruiter in Ontario. Her search is being driven in part by fear, worried that the new administration could quickly dismantle access to contraceptive medications and abortions, even in now liberal states. Quote, I don't think we are far from women losing the kinds of rights we fought long and hard for in the past, she said. Looking closer at Canada's health system, Patel says she's impressed with the country's abortion rights, strict gun laws, and universal health care. We've been saying it for years, Americans. Come try us out. You might like it. You might want to stay.
We're fairly hospitable, too, you know. I mean,
yeah.
We'll give you some maple syrup and a cup of coffee and a Timbit.
We're rather neighborly, you know. Sometimes we'll help you shovel your walk.
Yeah.
You could, the down part, listen, the downside to living in Canada for all the Americans who are not living in irrational fear of socialism is the fact that, you know, it's cold. Well, we have climate change happening, so that's probably going to be taken care of over time as well. So you might as well come down, get in on the ground floor.
But my take on that is, it's cold. What do the Norwegians always say? There is no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing choices.
Right.
You just dress for it.
Indeed.
It's that simple.
Yep.
Merino wool is your friend. Gore-Tex is your friend. You will be fine.
Yes. The doctor continues, we in the U.S. have lower life expectancy, higher maternal and infant illness and deaths, and we know that Canadians have better health and a longer life expectancy. All the physicians interviewed for this article are American-born and trained. Dr. Joyce Johnson, a pathologist in Nashville, says she's also looking at the job boards listing positions in Canada for the first time in her career. Quote, I have a lot of concerns about the future, she told CTV News. We've got 51% of the population, which is women, classified as DEI, or suddenly a special minority. That's crazy, horrible. The 66-year-old says she's hesitant to leave her adult children and grandchildren, but worries about the growing tensions between executive decisions on science and health funding and court rulings trying to halt the cuts to services and research. Quote, I think that things are going to move very quickly here in the next weeks and months, and I have a couple of former residents who are in practice in Canada who absolutely love it, said Johnson. While too early to confirm it as a trend, some believe the inauguration of President Donald Trump and the fire hose of changes directed at patient care may push more U.S. doctors to Canada, where an estimated 6.5 million people don't have a family doctor and where specialists are in heavy demand. Can we get that flute, the Pied Piper, make it play a medical song?
I don't know that song. I'll see if I can find it.
Get them to come over the border.
Oh, okay. Pied Piper.
That little Pied Piper.
Yeah, I understand.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought you wanted me to hit something on the
this way
sound
over
pad.
the border. Come on, doctors and nurses. Come on, follow me.
Well, you know.
I'm just saying. We have no wall. You can come by.
Yeah, come on. It's okay.
Geez. I would be open if I found the right job and place to live to moving by the end of the year, said Dr. Gretchen Winter. She is a critical care physician from Alabama who's looking at Ontario or BC, or perhaps even the East Coast for her move. Some of it is wanting to escape the political and anti-science, anti-vax movements in the U.S., and part of it is being proactive of our physical and reproductive health. Winter also says she's tired of battling misinformation among aggressive patients who question the scientific validity of treatments. Quote, it leads to me feeling like people don't trust me in my opinion and my expertise, and it makes it hard for me to want to give more of myself to patients that I feel don't believe that I have their best interest in my heart. Some provinces who responded to CTV News, and now, you know what, before I continue on that, that's one of the things, one of the costs of this toxic and caustic political rhetoric. Like, nobody trusts anybody. Well, I saw this commercial and it said I should ask about this. As your physician who studied this, you know, for 10 years, has been working for 25 years in this scene, like 27,000 cases of this, and has had nobody die. I'm telling you that this is what you need to do. Well, I'm not sure I trust your expertise. You experts, die then. I mean, it's just, I, at some, you can't go through life trusting nobody. At some point, you got to trust someone. So and doctor's visits are short. If you spend most of the time debating whether or not the doctor actually has the knowledge, it's like, why are you even in the room? But come on, man. And I'm not saying accept everything a doctor says wholesale and whatnot. You got to, you're your own advocate and you make your own decision. You have final authority on what happens to your body and that type of stuff, at least for now. But if all I've studied is baking, I am not going to sit in my doctor's office and pretend I know more about cardiology than they do. Or question them or cross-examine them like I know more about cardiology than they do.
Mm-hmm.
I will ask my due diligence questions. I might go get a second opinion, read up and stuff, but I'm not going to debate because I know I do not have more knowledge. I'm very painfully aware that I do not have more knowledge than my doctor, especially when I'm in the room and in pain. That's why I'm there. So it's this thing about like, I'm going to the doctor because I need help, but then I'm going to sit there and pretend I know more than the doctor. Then don't go to the doctor. There's a lot of people waiting for that appointment. You're wasting time. I just don't understand this. Some provinces who responded to CTV News requests says they are noticing a change. Officials with BC Health Match, the agency charged with recruiting for British Columbia, noticed an increase from interest for physicians in the U.S. Nova Scotia Health says it's received 35 inquiries from U.S. doctors since late November, just after the U.S. election, and the start of a targeted digital recruiting campaign, with 13 doctors actively engaged in discussions involving positions in the province, according to Brendan Elliott, a public affairs officer for Nova Scotia Health. He also confirms that more than half of those inquiries are women. Ontario Society of Physicians and Surgeons issued a reminder on February 14th that American board-certified doctors who want to move to the province are exempt from any other certification. Oh, well, at least there's that, like from the College of Family Physicians or of Canada or the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada. Nova Scotia has a similar expedited program that eliminates time-consuming additional exams or training for certified U.S. doctors. Okay, so at least some provinces have that, not all of them, but the ones that don't, if you want to get in on the sweepstakes, might want to make that change. Andrea Lowen, a recruiter for the Middlesex London Health team, says that at a recent medical show in Cleveland, some 200 doctors listened to her pitch to practice in Ontario, where the expedited process was a big draw. They were very excited. I think it got them thinking. So I think it wasn't on the radar before, said Lowen. She was also surprised to note that the vast majority of those asking about Canadian jobs were women. Quote, I came back and turned around and said to our Economic Development Corporation, we need to do a huge campaign in the US, and I think it could be significant, she said. One of the healthcare workers who answered Nova Scotia's recruitment call was Dr. Libby Fleming. She moved from solo practice in Pittsburgh to work at an addiction recovery support center in Sydney, Nova Scotia. Quote, my very first impression when I left the airport was like, oh my God, it's really beautiful here, she told CTV News. Fleming is an osteopathic doctor with a board-certified license in family medicine and a specialty in addiction medicine and met all the province's licensing requirements. She describes disillusionment with addiction treatment in the U.S., describing it as very profit-driven and very demoralizing because she felt the care was not focused on patient recoveries. Brought to you by Weston Wellness Care Centers.
Yes. Soon to be brought to you by Weston Wellness Care Centers.
Ding, 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 ding.
I think it would be Weston Family Wellness Centers, or something to that effect.
Yes. We are very profit-driven and very demoralizing. Send your loved ones to us.
Hey, Doug Ford, the healthcare is a mess. We need to fix the economy. Wait, what?
God bless the Westerns. Oh, God. My kids were like, why are you smiling so much? Every day I'm happy to go to work and I come home happy, said Fleming. I've seen my kids much less stressed since we moved here, she noted. On her arrival in Sydney last July, Fleming says on her arrival in Sydney last July, Fleming says she immediately felt welcomed and has never regretted the move with her 4 children in tow. While healthcare workers in Canada make less overall than the US, she accepted salaried work at the clinic in return for a higher quality of life. Text alerts that there was an active shooter around their schools in Pittsburgh are now a thing of the past. My daughter actually said to me, "There's no camera on our school bus. If someone comes to shoot us, they're not going to know who did it."
Wow.
Wow.
Sorry, we
Out of the
don't.
mouth of babes, eh?
That's not
Welcome to Canada,
not something
young
that
lady.
really happens here.
Wow. Wow. Okay, that's a sentence. Since Trump's inauguration, Fleming said she suddenly heard from more U.S. healthcare colleagues inquiring about moving north too. One, a family medicine practitioner, is traveling to Nova Scotia in the coming weeks to scope out a potential jump, says Fleming. A lot of people are scared, she said, adding, "I think we actually are about to see an outflow of healthcare workers from the United States. Come to us, my children. Come
Please,
to us.
please do.
A spokesperson for the American Medical Women's Association wrote that they could not confirm a trend of physicians moving north, and you're probably not legally allowed to anymore. We are not aware of any members who have made this decision, so could not speak to this as reality. That's code for we don't want to say anything because we don't want Donald Trump to notice us.
Mm.
It could be that curious U.S. doctors are waiting for Canada to sort out its own immediate future, said Gilles Croteau with the Canadian Society of Physician Recruitment. We have some political unrest, I think, in our own country right now. So potentially after the elections, we may see more physicians coming across the border. Some of the U.S. doctors CTV spoke to are waiting to see how the political landscape in Washington unfolds before making final decisions. Both Patel and Johnson say they want to see if judicial measures to stop funding cuts to healthcare and science hold, but they are keeping their options open. Quote, "There's part of me that says I should stay and just be a burr under the saddle," said Johnson. On the other hand, she said Canada is making immigration for doctors easier than ever, an attractive option for the 66-year-old who hopes to continue working for a few more years. I had one person say to me, "Well, your housing is going to be more expensive, but I can promise you your neighbor won't pull out a gun and shoot you." Like a fair trade, said Johnson. For Gretchen Winter, it's a matter of finding critical care. I was doing weird things again. For Gretchen Winter, it's a matter of finding a critical care position in a province that will be affordable to live in because she needs a home that will accommodate her 6 dogs. But Canada's healthcare system is intriguing, she says. Quote, "I'm very drawn to somewhere where the first priority is taking care of people, and then the finances are behind that." She knows physicians in Canada generally have lower pay scales than the US, but a pay cut would be offset by not having to pay for health insurance as she does south of the border. I probably pay at least $20,000 US a year for health insurance and stuff here. You know, better health insurance and health bills, possibly more, said Winter. Gynecologist Kirti Patel says that she will continue to research options in Canada as long as she can, quote, can be here in the US safely. Her biggest concern is her children, now young adults. Quote, "I want to be sure my kids can follow me if they wanted. I have to research to figure out how easily they can get a visa or citizenship before I make a move like that." I'm okay with the brain gain, and I would guess that this would probably be similar for academics working, like for at MIT and the Mayo Clinic, and all those Ivy League schools, all those science and research departments. If all the, we can't fund that type of research; it's too woke.
Mm-hmm.
We like science here in Canada.
Yeah, we very much like science. Well,
Researchers,
previous government didn't care for it too much.
researchers, medical professionals, mathematicians, technologists, very, very skilled tradespeople. Your man not treating you right? Want a real man to love you? Call us.
Okay.
Operators are standing by.
Here is an example. One more example of the pure fascist state that the United States is currently living in. This is 1 minute and 17 seconds. Hold on to your hats, and then I've got a follow-up for you, okay?
Okay.
Take for you to reconsider the restrictions on the Associated Press. And secondly, some of your advisors are concerned with the Associated Press's style guide, using language and giving guidance to not use words like illegal immigrant or to use phrases like gender-affirming care. And they're concerned about that being an encroaching amount of liberalism in the way in which the press writes about things. Do you share those concerns?
Well, I do think that some of the phrases that they want to use are ridiculous, and I think, frankly, they've become obsolete, especially in the last 3 weeks. because many things have happened in the last 3 weeks. And I didn't know about that, but I would say that if they want to use certain phrases like that, and I guess some are okay, but many aren't. But the Associated Press just refuses to go with what the law is and what is taking place. It's called the Gulf of America now. It's not called the Gulf of Mexico any longer. I have the right to do it, just like we have the right to do Mount McKinley, and nobody's even challenging that. But only the essentially, it's primarily the Associated Press, and I don't know what they're doing, but I just say that we're going to keep them out until such time as they agree that it's the Gulf of America. We're very proud of this country, and we want it to.
Okay, the Gulf of America. Well, somebody proposed a new name,
Yes.
an inclusive one.
Yes.
The Gulf of Cum. Cuba, USA, Mexico. The Gulf of Cum.
Golfo de la gringo idiota.
I mean, like, he's full fascist.
Now for this,
Full
you have to
on.
understand that what happened is that because the Associated Press, a newswire, fact base, right? The newswires, CP and AP, generally just do the factual stuff with no editorial comment and whatnot.
Correct.
Because the AP is still calling it the Gulf of Mexico.
Mhm.
The AP has now been banned
Yes. The Associated
from
Press.
such stuff. Yes.
Think of it like the Canadian press in Canada.
Yep.
They don't editorialize. They just report the facts.
Yep. And then that's why I always go to AP first.
Mhm.
And then, or Canadian Press first and see what happens. And then I look at the other things and see how things have been sort of, skewed and massage skewed, and the color and texture that's added. But the other information is important too. It gives contextual information like this, but you got to be clear on the facts first, right? And then you get the contextual information based on the facts. You can see how to interpret the contextual information, because that's when you get to the editorializing, people try to force that to lead you to a certain conclusion.
Exactly.
Right. But this is the thing with the AP is it's literally retaliation. And in his response, he's going like, well, they didn't get mad because Mount McKinley. Well, Mount McKinley is entirely within the United States.
Different story.
The Gulf of Mexico is international waters.
Yes.
Yeah, dumbass.
Yes.
It's like, I have the right to, you have the right in the United States, I guess, to call an apple an orange if you would like. It still doesn't make it an orange, though. So you can call it the Gulf of America all you want. It's not.
The rest of the world refuses to call it that. And I think there's a large swath of the American population that think this is the stupidest thing ever. It's a complete distraction from all of the fascist things he's actually doing. But he just told you right there, I have the right to do it. I'm doing it. It's like, this man is dangerous.
The distraction is the point.
Yes.
That's the point. While you're all going, Gulf of Mexico, what an idiot, like this one. Meanwhile, like,
he's robbing you of your rights.
The doctor is being sued and threatened with 99 years in jail because Louisiana wants Louisiana law to apply in New York.
Yes. What was it George Carlin said? They won't be happy until all women in this country are broodmares. Well, they're fast tracking that. Like I said, on the one hand, making IVF more affordable is good, except how long till he starts forcing women to get pregnant? You know that'll happen eventually. We need more workers for the machine. We need more human capital.
Yep. Indeed. So this is God, this is not good. And just so you know, the little parallel there, the Viktor Orban started this stuff back in 2018 in Hungary. It's 2025. He's still there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it doesn't look like he's going anywhere soon either. Once you elect a Putin wannabe,
they're going to
good luck getting rid of him.
Well, Putin's been in power for 25 years now?
Uh-huh.
He keeps getting miraculously reelected.
God. Yeah, because in Hungary, what he's done, he's literally just seized control of all the courts and the media and the whole thing. So it's basically in Hungary, it's listen only to me. You can trust only me. Your dear Victor.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the United States is going to.
Oh, yes.
Trump says, I said it's like this, therefore everybody must say it's like this. But it's not like this. But I said it is. And now all you have to do is say it is too, and we'll take care of the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Where did we hear that? Just say it is, and we'll take care of the rest. Oh, yeah, that was Ukraine, right?
That was you.
Yeah, just say Joe Biden is corrupt, and we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah.
Just say you're starting an investigation. You don't actually have to do it, but just say, and we'll take care of the rest. This is just say, and we'll take care of the rest.
Mm-hmm.
All over again. Just say it's the Gulf of America, but it's not. Just say, and it will be. We'll handle the rest.
Well, one more quote from him. I'm not going to show you the clip. I'm just going to read it to you, and then we'll carry on. And I'm going to grab a cup of tea. I'm off the coffee right now because my stomach's been off, so I'm just drinking Earl Grey.
That's wise.
Yeah, Trump, we have a very corrupt country, and it's a sad thing to say.
Every time he speaks about the country, he's speaking about himself.
Pay attention. If you take all those millions of people off Social Security, all of a sudden we have a very powerful Social Security.
Huh?
Yeah, so people who
Social
have paid
Security is
into...
only powerful if nobody uses it?
Yeah. If people have been paying into this fund their entire lives, their entire working lives, and they are entitled to it once they retire, and it's in many cases the only pension they have, pension or monthly stipend, if you will, he wants to take them off it. Then we have a powerful Social Security. You know why? So he can rub it fucking blind.
My head hurts.
Fucking stops with this guy. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he goes, Paul, every day I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, what has he done now? Every day. And sometimes it's multiple times a day. This is just from yesterday.
Well, he knows how to keep his name in the news, I guess.
Yeah.
I can't. Just, oh, God.
Well, I mean, he blames Ukraine for,
yeah,
being invaded by Russia because they did it first. They didn't do anything of the sort.
Ukraine, what were you wearing?
Yeah. Oh, just a little footnote here before I grab a cup of tea. A Crown-seeking 10-year sentence for Freedom Convoy organizer Pat King. A sentencing day is today for those who celebrate. Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah. I'll put the let me put the link in the chat here.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Grizzly.
You're welcome.
You
I'll put the link in the chat.
Very happy.
Story, and if you want to go through some of the replies, some of them are just outlandish, and I've replied to a few people. And wow, the pile on after that is just hilarious. But I'm like, most of them are just bots.
Yep. Jingle bells, Pat King goes to jail. Honk, 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 honk. Okay. Okay. So, meanwhile, back in Canada. Conservatives are not having a good time. There are polling numbers that keep coming in, and they're not good for them at all. Like I mentioned on the last show, there will be 3 inflection points coming if the markers are hit. One is when the conservative seat count descends below majority territory, which is happening in certain polls, but it isn't the general overall conclusion of all the aggregated polls yet. There is the time where the lines on the graph between the Liberals and the Conservatives will intersect, if that happens, and that the Liberals take the lead officially. And then if the Liberal line does cross that magical line into majority territory, that will be another one. And you will see the Conservatives become even more apoplectic, get more strident, more shrill, and there'll probably be more visible open backbiting and internal party squabbling the more those milestones get hit. Should they be hit? Should we have the pleasure and the privilege of them being hit and then watching the Conservatives fight each other and implode prior to an election? I would really like that, because they've been way too happy since Chrystia Freeland plunged the knife in the chest of the Prime Minister. and
Oh,
thinking
yes.
that they had it all made.
Yeah.
And the script has flipped so badly that, as Mr. Grizzly pointed, that there are people who are on that side of the ledger, all those blue checkmark bullshit accounts like this, who are like, yeah, you guys are done. Pierre's going to be inevitable. You guys are going to cry. Ha ha ha. I'll go, fake poll. So let me scroll back to December 2024 when Angus Reid put out their previous poll and see was showing that the Liberals at 16 and see if you were saying it was a fake poll then, because I bet you were all over the internet saying, look, the polls, when everybody, all Liberals were saying, well, wait a minute, there's still a time. And then they'd show you a picture of the poll. Maybe they were even doing it last week with all the polls saying that there's been a narrowing of the gap. Abacus is the outlier on the other side, still showing a conservative lead of about 20 something. So see, haha. Oh, you picked the one poll out this week out of all of them. That's the outlier on the other side, and you're representing it as all of. Oh, see, oh my, it's like, yeah. What? Excuse me, ma'am. What are you doing with those goalposts? Oh, you're moving them to the other end of the field. Oh, okay.
Fair.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see that. So, yeah, the numbers are really, really interesting, particularly with Angus Reid, because when they came out with their last one, I have to say, I was really skeptical because they had the Liberals drop from 21% support to 16% support. And it wasn't, it wasn't the last one. Sorry, it was their before last one. And I was sitting there and I was trying to think like, how is that even possible? Because it seems a little low. Now, there might have been one data set I missed because I thought that there was only one poll, and this graphic seems to indicate that they had two, but maybe they didn't release the numbers publicly. But on December 24th, they had the Liberals at 16. On December, was that December? Well, there's a big thing blocking it, so I can't tell what it is. I'm going to say that's January 25th because they go, well, no, that couldn't be January 25th because we're not February 25th yet. So I can't see the date because there's something covering it. They went up to 29%, and now the recent one that they just put up was 37. So according to Angus Reid, in 2 reporting periods, the Liberals have jumped to 21%. But they were the only one showing that further dramatic drop at that time too. So that was when that Angus Reid one came out. I was a little like, this seems to be odd, and just was wondering if it was an outlier, because every now and then, that will happen. You'll get an outlier. But I'm looking through the 338.com stuff. And yeah, the last one I have is December 29th. It shows Liberals 16, Conservatives 45, NDP 21. So NDP with 5 points ahead of the Liberals, I guess, and the CPC gap at 24 points. And then the one that came in between that was showing it did not get registered at all by 338. So I'm guessing Angus Reid didn't release those numbers publicly. So to keep that 16 out in the public sphere longer. Because if I'm looking at 338, out of all the polling companies, Angus Reid is the only one that does not have anything on the list between December and now. Nanos is there several times. Research Company is there. Oh no, not Research Company too. Yeah, but Research Company is a new one. But yeah, most of the big ones have all had 2 or 3 of them out in that period, and it seems that Angus Reid did one, but the numbers, I guess, were not released. How curious. Now, Angus Reid is the pollster that most people believe tends to lean conservative to begin with. So if Angus Reid is showing that type of a closing of the gap in just 2 reporting periods, there's something there. But we already knew there was something there, but we're just waiting for the stragglers to come along, right? Because remember that graph we showed you that had like the 4 quadrants, and we saw Ecos all the way, all alone, and everybody was like near the center. Well, you look at that graph now everybody is sort of like around where Ecos is, and I think an Abacus is like in a whole other quadrant. with everyone. It's like it's so outlying. At least when Ecos was showing that the gap was only 3%, everybody else was showing that the gap was narrowing. So they were all in the same quadrant. It's just that Ecos was like 5 miles ahead out of everyone in that quadrant. It's like now everybody is in that quadrant except for Abacus. And Abacus is the pool that troll on the internet. See, conservatives are still winning. You run with that, honey. You run with that. I'm sure. And when they don't, you will be more severely disappointed than everybody else because you choose to put all your faith in one single poster rather than an aggregate number, the one that most confirmed what you want to be true. But so when that breaks, it's going to be a hard landing for you, Muffin. And if you need some comfort, we'll be here to console you. But it's like that. Don't invest your hope in the outlier pool.
No, goodness, no.
Either positive or negative. We were happy when we saw Frank Graves come out and said, "Hey, there's a like this," but we did say, "Hey, it's happening." It's like one poll says something's happening. Let's see if that trend is picked up somewhere else. Then Main Street started picking it up, and then everybody else started to pick it up. Now Main Street is actually ahead of Ecos now. But the others are not all in there. But we do have 3 polling companies that have them within 10. And if the numbers are keeping on improving, right? So conservatives are definitely in a panic. There's absolutely no doubt about this. And you can tell, right? Because Pierre had his big rebranding that was not a rebranding, a relaunch. That was not a relaunch, even though he took every single press conference he did over the last 2 weeks and inserted it into an over hour-long speech.
Yes.
But yeah, okay. If you don't want, if it's the media, I'm not rebranding because the media said I had to. The media didn't say you had to. The media said it's kind of obvious that you need to. Whether you have to or not, that's a personal decision. I mean, and we kind of know that the conservatives didn't really want to because, the reporting that we heard is that, well, but we invested so much into this. We can't let this go. Okay, well, and it seems that is indeed the case. So we need to axe the tax more than ever before now. Okay, if you want to keep running on that because you put 2 years into that and people are not responding to that anymore. But if you want that, again, that's your choice. I'm not going to interrupt you while you're imploding.
Well, 3 critical mistakes Pierre made. This is from our friend Mike Gerald Gibbs on the Twitter. Number 1, trashing Canada. Number 2, making every message assuming Trudeau would be leader. Number 3, over-reliance on carbon tax. Pierre is so overexposed after blitzing us with a 24-hour nonstop ad campaign for 2 years, he can't redefine himself and adjust. It is possible to overexpose yourself and go too crazy with your ad budget. Canadians' idea of him is baked in and immovable now. He has no room to adjust quickly, which is what this campaign demands. I agree. Like he's painted himself into a corner, and I personally love it.
I know, because he went so hard on Canada's broken, and liberals are corrupt, and all of you are going to have your rights taken away any minute now.
Well, if you believe Joe Rogan, we can't speak freely, according to him.
I'm not even convinced Joe Rogan has ever been to Canada, so he can shut his yap. It's like, do you even Canada, bruh? Come on. It's like that sentence is like, if you're Canadian, you read that sentence and you just laugh because it's like, you know nothing about us, clearly. If you actually think that is true, you know nothing about us. Like, you really know nothing about us. That's why I say, have you ever been here? Just, I'm sure he must have been at some point. So yeah, Pierre is definitely painting himself in the corner. It's hard to whiplash, have someone tell you that they believe that Canada is a strong, proud nation now, after telling you 2 years.
We're broken. We're crime infested.
You're ugly. You're stupid. Nobody's going to love you. You might as well stay with me. You're worthless. I'll make you feel better. I'll straighten you up. I'm sure there's some people hearing me say this who have been in similar contexts before in their life, and a couple of things got triggered. If you hear him talking and somehow you're triggered, maybe that's what he's triggering, because you've been there before. And he's talking to you like the people back then who made you feel that way talked to you. This man is abusive.
Yeah.
This man's rhetoric is abusive. He is proposing an abusive relationship with the people of Canada.
It's all he's ever done. It's all he's ever done.
And the fact that he's going down faster than the Titanic makes me very happy.
Well,
because people like that do not deserve to be anywhere near power.
And Michael D'Adder's editorial cartoon from just a few days ago. Mark Carney in Team Canada sweater, hockey sweater, driving Pierre Poilievre in a U.S.-style sweater into the boards, and it says polls. For those of you listening, if you haven't seen the political cartoon from the great Michael D'Adder, one of the greatest political cartoonists this country's ever produced.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. So, yeah. Angus Reid comes out, shows that the gap is very narrowed within a certain amount of points. I think it's how many points again? Just want to check that out. The race is within 3 points. Really. So they have the Conservatives at 40 and the Liberals at 37. Now, Angus Reid has the NDP in that same period dropping from 21 to 10 in that 2-week period. And has the Bloc dropping from 16 to 7 in that 2-week period. So these are huge shifts in just 2 weeks in one poll. So either whatever model Angus Reid had was really holding on to last stuff, and then just all unblocked all at once because it hit a major tipping point, or like I said, I don't know but I do not know what generates a 21-point swing to the upwards in just 2 reporting periods.
Yeah, it's massive, from 16 points in December to 37 points as of, well, I don't know when this was.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, the thing is that it says 20. This one says that the numbers will be released. It says 25 February on the bottom, but we're not 25 February yet. So, yeah. Oh, that's
February
the year.
2025,
okay,
yes.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I don't know what date. It's just February 25, and that would be the year.
Okay. So then, that middle number is the January number, but for some reason 338 didn't think that it should be included. So I don't know if Angus Reid reported it publicly or not. Because I've been looking for an Angus Reid number for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And this chart seems to indicate that there was a number for January that didn't show up anywhere. That did show a 13-point closing, show that the Liberals moved from 16 to 29, which would have been one hell of a news story.
Yeah.
Especially from Angus Reid.
Oh, agreed.
Yes. So, don't know why that number didn't come out publicly. But the other thing, Mr. Grizzly, that's really interesting, according to Chartiste, who's not an actual source or a pollster or whatnot, but somebody that does some modeling based on polling. According to his modeling, the Angus Reid poll shows the Liberals at 166 and the Conservatives at 141, so shows a minority Liberal government. But the real interesting thing with the Angus Reid poll is this little graph, Mr. Grizzly, that I'm going to share with you, and I hope that you can put up, because demographics, according to Angus Reid, are changing. One of the things with Pierre Poilievre is that he was particularly popular with men, particularly young men. And then even women.
So Jordan Peterson and incels?
Yep. Well,
Just
I know.
guessing.
You know what? I guess, and women were like, even women were like turning to Pierre all of a sudden. The data was showing. Now, if you look at this graph, the second row, first top row is Carney, second row is Polyev.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the second row, men 18 to 34, Polyev is now 23 points negative.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Carney came along.
26, Singh 23. Mark Carney is plus 18.
Yep.
So the
Now, with
35
men-
to 54-year-old
Yep.
is minus 5 and plus 3. And it's switched around 55 and up because I'm 56. So I fall into that category, I guess.
So with men, the only people with whom Pierre has a positive rating now, according to Angus Reid, which leans conservative, so everybody thinks, are men between 35 and 54, which is his specific age demographic.
Right.
But the young men have turned against him minus 23 all of a sudden.
And
they were
women as
for him
well.
not too long ago. Men 55 and over, just minus 3. Now look what happened with women, with Mark Carney and Polyev. Because
Minus
Polyev was starting to
36.
lead with women.
Yeah, he's minus 36 with women between 18 and 34, minus 22 with women 35 to 54, and minus 33 with women 55 plus.
And Carney?
50. He's 22 points up with women 55 plus, 5 points up 35 to 54, and 11 points up with women 18 to 34. And this is from Angus Reid?
Yeah. So he's 49.
Holy shit.
He's got a 49-point spread with women 18 to 34. He's got a 27-point spread with women 35 to 54. And he's got a 55-point advantage with women 55 and older.
Ladies, save us.
Well,
save
young
us from
men do here.
ourselves. Oh, no, but the 35 to 54-year-old.
Yes.
Save us from ourselves.
Yes, please. So those numbers really must have the conservatives panicking big time. Now, the next thing that might have them panicking is that, the candidates for the Liberal race have had to pay all their money and submit some documents to Elections Canada and about how much they fundraised so far and from how many. And there's some really, really interesting results that have come out. Mr. Grizzly, I just sent you a clip. It's from Power and Politics yesterday. It would appear that in the fundraising sweepstakes for the Liberal leadership, because remember they had to bring in $350,000 to register, but they're allowed to raise up to $5 million for actually campaigning. Right? There's a big lead. And then there's a very surprising number that I did not know until this morning when I got something else. Apparently has a little asterisk next to it, but the number that came out the original filing is not good for this candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Grizzly, if you could put it. The thing has 3 segments, but we're going to start with the first one.
Just a second. I got 2 different ones. Losing this, and then you sent me another link.
The most recent one I sent you.
Okay. Hang on.
The one I sent at 8:30.
It's the same thing. It's the same link. You sent it twice for some reason. I was just confused. The same thing. Sent the same link twice.
I've only sent one.
I have 2 of them.
Okay.
Same link twice. Doesn't matter. It's the same thing.
Okay. But I'm clicking on them and it's not the same thing.
Well, I got the same thing twice is all I can tell you. I don't know what else to tell you. I got the same thing twice. I got 2 YouTube links.
Do you have one that shows up at 8:30?
Just a moment. Yes, and you sent me that twice. That's what I'm saying. You sent me that twice. That's why I was confused. I have 2 links to the same thing. They're both a YouTube link from CBC News.
Let's not discuss this on live. That's not.
Well, I'm just trying to sort through it. Okay. That's all. Don't do that to me. I have enough shit going on right now. I'm just going to air this and step away. Just let me get this queued up here.
hard data in the leadership race. Walk us through it.
Yeah, candidates are always boasting about how well they're doing, right? And there's lots of claims being thrown around during an election campaign. Now we have some actual hard data as to how well these candidates are doing in the race to replace Justin Trudeau. And it's very clear Mark Carney has what is probably an insurmountable lead in terms of fundraising at this point. He is outpacing all of the other candidates in terms of the amount of money that has been hauled into this point. Let's bring up the chart and show all our viewers where people are at as of this point, as of really Sunday when they had to submit this data. Although the data likely dates back to last week. So Mark Carney's at $1.9 million from 11,260 contributors. Karina Gould, $236,000 from 1,375 contributors. Frank Baylis, $227,000 from 188 contributors. Chrystia Freeland, $226,000 from 332 contributors, although there is a major asterisk there. We'll get to that in a second. And Ruby Dalla, $144,000 from 109 contributors. So why did I say there's an asterisk there next to Chrystia Freeland? Well, her campaign tells us that the data that is with Elections Canada right now is incomplete, that it does not tell the whole picture. Essentially what happened is that some of their money was routed through the party itself. So the party was holding on to some of their campaign funds. That money was not released to the campaign before this data was presented to Elections Canada. So they say the numbers that have been reported today really undercount just how much money they have pulled into this point and how many contributors they can actually add to their list. So the campaign tells us their actual figures to this point. They've raised $600,000 from a total of over 2,000 donors. So that puts her just below Mark Carney.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to say, when the Elections Canada data first came out, we were all pretty bowled over in the newsroom to see Chrystia Freeland so close to the bottom of the list. Right. Obviously, $600,000, much better, although you know, not a third of what Mark Carney's campaign is saying they raised up to this point. Help us understand where this leaves the race.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Carney has raised nearly more than 3 times the amount that Chrystia Freeland has pulled into this point, if we're to use the numbers that her team has provided to us. He's got 1.9 million, she's got 600,000. His money is coming from nearly 6 times the number of donors. He's got about 11,260 contributors. She's at about 2,000. So many more people have opened up their checkbook to cut Mark Carney a check and give him some more cash compared to what they've given Chrystia Freeland. And when you pair that with the 83 Liberal MPs that have so far endorsed Mark Carney, it does suggest that he is the front runner in this race. He's got a lot more money and many more MPs lining up behind his candidacy than Chrystia Freeland or Karina Gould or any of the other MPs or candidates that are in this race. And how do Mark Carney's numbers compare to Pierre Poilievre and what he went through in his leadership race in 2022? Well, they compare favorably, frankly. I mean, we know that Pierre Poilievre raised about $10 million over the 7-month-long campaign that he was in to win the Conservative leadership. So that's about $1.4 million a month. Obviously, it's difficult to make an exact comparison because it's a much more constrained election campaign to replace Justin Trudeau. But $1.4 million for Poilievre in a month, $1.9 million for Mark Carney. So that suggests he's doing reasonably well. I would say that. It also suggests there will probably be a big target on Mark Carney's back when they head into those debates next week. A lot of the other contenders will be going after him, knowing he's in the pole position as it stands.
Yeah, I mean, there certainly was a sense of that going into this, but this really solidifies it and quantifies it. Thank you for bringing us all this perspective today. The CBC's JP Tasker, and you can also catch his story on.
All right. And do leave it to pause there, Mr. Grizzly, because we will show the discussion afterwards, because there's some very interesting things being said. So if you look at these numbers, interesting that Chrystia Freeland's original numbers from Elections Canada only show 226,000 with 332. It says, but no, there's more because some came through the party. But I would guess that donations came through the party for the other candidates as well. So if these are the Elections Canada numbers, I would assume that everybody else has some additional numbers as well that they can add to it to say what the party drew in. So while it closes the gap for Freeland at this particular second, like I said, the other candidates could have that additional numbers too, which may negate that difference. The one thing, however, I'd like to point out, once again, called it when it comes to Karina Gould. I think very, very early on, I think when we're talking about her campaign launches or before, that she could do enough to finish second. Well, according to the numbers submitted to Elections Canada, she is second in fundraising and second in the number of delegates. And she didn't have lots of time before to prepare because she just decided, as she said in her interview, she talked to Jean Chrétien a little bit before and decided, hey, I'm going to do it. So she had no pre-organization. With that number of delegates, 1,000, well, number of donors, 1,375, if you assume that people, out of all the people that register to be able to vote in the Liberal leadership race, first of all, your membership, you have to, we're going to have to prove people registered. I'm going to have to show some ID and whatnot. Then there will be some people that will be rejected from that because either they won't follow through or they won't do it. And then, there'll be all the types of other things where people drop off along the way. So you have the number of people register and the number of people who actually vote in the leadership race. And that seems to decline usually in a race. But of those who are going to show up to vote for sure, you can pretty much assume that if somebody cared enough to register and donate, that they're probably a highly motivated voter within the Liberal leadership race. And according to these numbers, with Karina Gold having 1,375 people that have made a donation, whereas Chrystia Freeland having 332 based on these numbers, that looks like a setup to very well finish second. I don't know what the new numbers for Freeland, what that adds up total, because I didn't do the math and didn't isolate them. But I think it's still maybe a little less than Karina Gold. So we might be looking at a situation where Freeland might finish third. And if there's a lot of animus towards her for having taken out the prime minister, maybe even lower. So it's in one way, I have to say I feel bad for her because she's been this loyal soldier and she worked very hard and did a lot of things that helped a lot, and she's incredibly competent and intelligent, but she's not the best communicator, and it showed in her campaign, and it showed in the her ability to get attention, and it showed in her ability to be effective. And you're still left with the question, how is it that some of your colleagues who have worked with you for the better part of 9 years prefer someone else? Now, this could just be sheer crass winnability, right? We think he's our horse. We can win. Sorry. But I really thought it was going to be much closer. I have to say, I really thought it was going to be much, much closer. So there could be a lot of resentment for having done the deed. There could be a lot of people in the Liberal ranks that are relieved that the deed has been done and still be resentful for all the brouhaha and PR mess that it brought about, because the transition might have been able to be cleaner and less dramatic. But we'll never know, right? That's what people just assume. Could have been another possibility, but when you start imagining that, anything could be a possibility, really. So you can't just take one and say, well, had you not run or had you not done this, then we would be here today. And you don't know. You don't know. So these are very, very curious numbers. And like I said, that Freeland's, when these numbers are coming out, Freeland's campaign is, oh, wait a minute, wait, we have to, there's more. Don't just look at these numbers. There's more. But even when you add those numbers, Carney still has 6 times the donors and 3 times the funds. Now, of course, Carney, given the world that he's been in, given that he is a global elite, definitely has a lot of contacts and a broad network. And if he is, as he appears to be, someone who's calm and thoughtful and respectful and engaging and has some personality and, is, as Don Cherry would say back in the day, a good Canadian kid, then, I mean, it wouldn't be that hard for him to raise that much money. that quickly either. So, but Karina Gould, with a late start, there's some people that are hearing her and like what she says. Like what she's saying, this for her, it's how she's presented herself, how she's fought this, what she's had to say. If people knew her a little bit from before, if they saw clips from her when she was the House leader, but she didn't have a lot of visibility because she was away on maternity leave for the longest time, as well. Right, just before that, she recently just came back to Parliament, so she had a certain number of months out of the public eye completely, very recently before the start of this campaign. So she's being particularly effective. If she's saying that she's leading a grassroots campaign, she literally is. And she's showing that she can do it. Um, Frank Bayless being third in the money, just by a little bit less than $1,000 ahead of Freeland, was surprising. That's why, but maybe the main reason that had Freeland going, hey, wait a minute, that Gould was ahead. Gould was only ahead by $10,000 also on the fundraising, but on the numbers, over 1,000 donors more though. Chrystia Freeland had raised her 226,000 from 332 donors, whereas Karina Gould raised her 236,000 from 1,375. So her average donation is still smaller than $200, which is not the case for Freeland. So when Gould says she's running a grassroots campaign, she really is. But Frank Bayless coming in third is kind of interesting over Freeland in the money numbers. Now, of course, he too comes from the business world and the business sector, and odds are that he was able to get people to make sizable donations, given that he only has 188 donors, but raised more than Freeland. So his average donation is almost twice the size of Freeland's, based on the numbers presented by Elections Canada. And then, thank goodness, Ruby Dalla is in last with 109 donors, but $144,000 from 109 donors. So that's over $1,000 each, those donors. So and I find her candidacy super suspicious. I just I would like to know who those donors are. Let's just put it that way. I'm not sure if that information can be made public or whatnot, but would be interesting, because I find it hard to believe. But hey, she's still in the race. Mr. Grizzly, I don't know if you are still there, but the next part of this video is a discussion segment. You know what? Actually, we're going to skip that. We'll just skip that. But if you have and I'll put it in the chat for you if you want to take a look at it. But they had Émilie Nicolas, who's there, and Françoise Boivin, Michelle Cardadillo, and Stephanie, I can't remember her last name, from the Conservative Party, on the panel, and talking about fundraising numbers and whatnot, and the path ahead and all kind of stuff. And there was some very interesting comments and points being made. I have to say, by the way, even though she is young, Émilie Nicolas has a very, very, very astute mind for analysis of the public environment. So whenever she's making a comment, you see her on a panel, pay very close attention to what she has to say. She's a columnist for Le Devoir. She knows her stuff. She knows her stuff, and she's not prone to exaggeration or big flights. So you would probably want to take a good look at that from her. There is one point of it that I would like to bring up, if you are there. Oh, you're there. There you go, Mr. Grizzly. Sorry, I was looking at my screen and didn't see you had popped back up. Can we go to about 24:54?
Here we go.
or question his former employment, his work on boards. It's been interesting to watch. The Conservatives are in some respects trying to tie him to Donald Trump with this new attack ad that they are going to be putting resources behind, where they in fact go so far as to suggest that policy choices around the carbon tax make him and Justin Trudeau sellouts to Canada. I wonder how effective you think the Conservatives have been thus far in trying to define Mark Carney.
First of all, I think we're being very creative with the definition of conflict of interest. A conflict of interest is when you have current ties with a company, you have a business interest somewhere, or your close one, your immediate family or close friends have some immediate ties with businesses that might interfere with your role that you have in public office. It's not about your resume. And so if we are using the word conflict of interest to talk about past employers, we're getting outside of the definition of conflict of interest. That being said, I do think that although there's this adaptation of Pierre Poilievre trying to pivot from Axe the Tax to Canada First, using red colors, which is historical for the Conservative Party at a rally this weekend. What we're still seeing is basically attacks on the opponent, which I think might be the issue in and of itself in terms of the results in the poll. That's just my instinct. I do believe that we are in a unite as Canadian moment, and that partisan attacks isn't something that a lot of Canadians have an appetite for. And so I think maybe the trap with Pierre Poilievre is that he's been trying to find the right way to attack, while people might not have any patience or time with Canadians attacking other Canadians right now. And so the Liberal government message has been very much focused on what's happening in the US, what's been happening in Europe, and trying to find solutions there. And so, but if you are trying to basically disparage another Canadian as the American government is attacking us, I think you might have the wrong political strategy. And so that's just my hint right now, but we'll see how fast Pierre Poilievre goes with that. But I think it's actually the being focused on another Canadian rather than on the Americans that the issue, not how you attack your fellow Canadian.
Françoise, that very much does bring us to the rally this weekend, and I thought it was really interesting the way in which Pierre Poilievre has tried to use a kind of patriotism that attacks his opponents, right? If you look, there was a lot of policy, I thought, in that speech, some of which we hadn't heard before, talking about things like naming future structures and statues after Sir John A. Macdonald, like a lot of things basically suggesting that his fundamental argument, the Liberals have kind of not done right by Canadian history and by Canadians, and he is going to turn all of that around. How effective an argument do you think that is in the moment that we are in, as Emily just spoke about?
Well, I do think that for the crowd that was there, he was catering to them. I mean, today's attack by the Conservative MP, and the same goes with the NDP, by the way, with Matthew Green going after Liberals and Conservatives in a way I haven't heard in the last few weeks, because they've been pretty quiet on their side. Made me think, geez, did I miss a poll somewhere? And lo and behold, I got the Angus Reid, and I went, now I understand. And I think for the Conservative, I was kind of expecting a little shift. Last week, we passed the whole week saying, how will Pierre Poilievre pivot in all that? Mm-hmm. And I think they didn't so much pivot as just decided to adapt a bit their message because of Donald Trump. And they're relying again to the recipe that worked for them for the last 2 years that might not be adapted with the situation and where Canadians are right now. But it gave me an impression, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Kate will say you're totally wrong, but I felt like it's as if it's a desperate move in a sense that they want to retain at least their base, because that's basically the message that fits their base. But it's not a message that stands up to the level that Canadians are at facing Donald Trump and the attack that he's making on Canada. And I do think that the Conservatives realize, I don't think we can compete on that front. We have to stick to our guns and hope that maybe the same thing will happen in Canada that happened in America, in the United States, that there's people who wants to go back to the good old way of doing this, of doing that, and that it might be their only key to success compared to Mark Carney, who's going up really quickly.
Okay, to try to keep this fair, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to ask for a last comment from Kate and from Michelle, get at least a conservative and liberal perspective. The most important thing that you want to communicate vis-a-vis what Pierre Poilievre is doing right now.
Yeah, I think what I took away from the Canada First rally on Sunday, twofold message. One, Conservatives are not dancing around the Donald Trump issue, talked about it at numerous points, spoke directly to Americans, have taken out advertising with Donald Trump's face to say, this person is a threat. Said clearly that will never be the 51st state. So for all of the critics that said Conservatives were being too light on Donald Trump, or that we may be too light on Donald Trump, I think the proof is there that that's not the case. But more importantly than that, I think really now a focus from the Conservatives on the substance and policy of what they want to see Canada become. And yes, there was a time and a place for a message that talked about how we got here. And I think that still it's fair to point out that Liberal policy has brought us, of the last 9 years, has brought Canada to a place of weakness, particularly economic weakness. But now the attention needs to be, what would Conservative leadership look like for Canada? Emphasizing to voters, if you want Conservative policy solutions, you have to vote Conservative. You can't vote for Justin Trudeau 2.0. So that is the more optimistic side of the equation, the more forward-looking side of the equation that I think the Conservatives are going to be leaning into for the next many weeks.
I call bullshit.
Right.
Bullshit.
Right.
Like, come on, lady.
Right.
You're spewing more bullshit conservative talking points telling us that we're economically weak.
Yep.
Didn't we just sign new trade deals with countries that aren't the United States of America?
Ecuador and Indonesia. Indonesia, one of the most populous countries in the entire world.
The Trans Mountain Pipeline that, we're going to be able to ship oil to whoever the hell we want now. And it's shipping 890,000 barrels a day go through that pipeline. We can sell that oil to whomever we want on the world market because it's ours.
Right. So this
is
Kate
just
Harrison,
more bullshit talking points from the cons, and she's not even telling the truth.
I know, but she's always like that. On this panel, she is the people. Conservatives hardly send anybody there in terms of MPs and elected representatives to CBC to talk on these shows, but she's there all the time, and it's always the same narrative. It's always negative. It's always down. It's always, and it's always from this alternate vision of the world. Like Pierre had a rally once and then said one thing about this one time. So I think therefore the proof is in the pudding that we're going to stand up to. No, you only stand up to, you don't stand up to the United States when you organize a big rally event where you're trying to bring in extras to use as infomercial and clip fodder like this, where you're going in front of the mic that you're going to put some music swelling on and say, oh yeah, he stood up to Donald. No, that's not standing up to Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, think of Canada as a mountain and Donald Trump as as water.
Yes.
And it's just, what a water erosion does, right? The wave just keeps coming to the rock. That's Donald Trump. It's like, I want Canada to be the 51st state. We are not interested. I want Canada to be the 51st state. We're not interested. I want Canada to be the 51st state. That's never going to happen. I want Canada to be the 51st state. Fuck off already. I want Canada to be the 50th. He'll just keep on going until you finally just have enough and give in.
Mm-hmm.
That's his way. He erodes your will away by refusing to acknowledge any reality other than his own. It's a common tactic of narcissists.
Oh, yes.
If you say no doesn't mean no, it means try again later.
Well, with our new, soon-to-be coming online liquid natural gas plant, where they can, convert liquid or natural gas to liquid for shipping purposes, how soon before we start supplying Europe with oil and LNG because they want to sever all ties with the Russian Federation? I'm posing a legitimate question. How soon before that happens? Trans Mountain Pipeline gives us the ability to do that.
Right.
And the liquid natural gas plant is in British Columbia, if memory serves. I'm pretty sure that's where it is, isn't it? Yeah. And that should be online by the end of this year. It's billions of dollars going into that to get it up and operational. It's we're in a unique place here. I want to continue with this. There's about a minute and change left, and I want to hear the rest of the panel what they have to say. Is there a response to her on the bullshit she just spewed?
I'm not sure. I think it's just the closing of it, but we can go through it.
Michelle, your thoughts?
Well, I think that clearly the red and white and definitely, showing the Canadian colors at a Conservative rally isn't something that you usually see. I think that him trying to shed the angry man and desperately trying to pivot and just to find something that's going to work probably gives legitimacy to a lot of these polls and showing that they are converging, because clearly their own internal polling is saying the same thing. And I think that he's struggling to find his feet right now. And I think that it's not the campaign that they thought they were going to run. And he has to now be a different person. And he has to now actually stand up and be proud of Canada at a time when he's been trying to knock it down for the last number of years that he's been leader. So, I think that as they continue to struggle, I think that Mark Carney just has to stay focused on getting the job done, introducing himself to Canadians, and making sure that he is ready to go whenever it is that we have to go, because and keeping the eyes wide open that the biggest threat is Donald Trump to this country, and that's where his focus has got to be.
Okay, lots of perspectives to consider. Thank you to all of you for your input today. Our power panel, Émilie Nicolas, Michelle Cadere.
So, the thing that the Conservatives have going right now, and that's in the clip that I showed you when I talked about Émilie Nicolas, is they are trying to impugn his character as being someone who has tons of conflicts of interest. And, what's he hiding? Why won't he? Okay. First of all, the conflict of interest forms are usually signed and the disclosures are done once you're elected. Now, if the party for party leadership race wants people to put all that stuff up to determine whether or not they can be a candidate or not, that's fine. They can do that, just like the Republicans used to ask people to show their taxes before they could decide whether or not they run or not. But they made one exception one time for one guy. So you can have that as the type of process. But as Émilie Nicolas, and as we learned with the We scandal, a conflict of interest is a very, 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 very specific thing in law that involves very, very specific people. Right? We learned that. So here we are, the Conservatives again. Well, Carney was a banker, and if he's a banker, well, that means he hung around with a lot of rich people and a lot of stuff with a lot of companies. Maybe he's working for their interests rather than yours. How do we know? He should come clean now. Okay. Mark Carney had some type of response like, it's like, yeah, and if the leader of the opposition ever had held a job outside of politics, we would be asking for his forms too. Because he actually could have a conflict of interest, but given that he's working in government all his life, I guess. So, little digs that way going on. But yes, it seems that the Conservative push here, according to the Canadian press, the Conservatives have asked Canada's lobbying commissioner to investigate whether it violates ethic rules for the Prime Minister to make Mark Carney his own personal advisor. This was in October 2024. So let's put this here. The Conservatives have been telling us since Mark Carney entered the race that it's the Carney-Trudeau Liberals Carney-Trudeau drug policy. It's the Carney-Trudeau. But the Conservatives only asked Canada's lobbying commissioner to investigate whether it violates ethic rules for the Prime Minister to make Mark Carney his own personal advisor in October 2024. So before October 2024, I guess they weren't really concerned about that. Or maybe it's because, well, he only became his economic advisor in October 2024 and therefore is not responsible for anything that happened before. But since you're building all your narrative that the whole 9 years are Carney years is true, so you can't actually put that little factoid out now, can you? Yep. He became the advisor in October 2024, right away. Like, is this ethical? They said Carney will help shape the party's policies for the next election. An advisor doesn't help shape the policies. An advisor gives advice. This type of policy could be good in this type of situation. It could yield this effect. It could have these downsides. These downsides can be mitigated by something like this. And then cabinet decides whether or not they will take the advice. And then when they take the advice, they also decide how they will implement it. So sometimes you can take someone's advice, but implement it in a different way than you were advised. So what the Conservatives are trying to say here is that when Mark Carney agreed to advise the Prime Minister in October 2024, that there was something not cool, not kosher about that, completely, totally insuspicious. And when he decided to do that, that meant that whatever Mark Carney said goes. That's what the government would do. If you give advice, the government is necessarily going to take all of it and implement it all. So therefore, it's all Carney. We all know that's not true. I mean, just look at us in our regular lives. How much advice do we really take from others in our personal lives? And the Liberals are in charge of leading an entire government of a G7 nation. And the Conservatives want you to believe that if Mark Carney said it, they took his 100% advice and implemented it wholesale. So therefore, this is Carney's. It's just not credible. The attack is so weak on its surface. You just have to think about it for 15 seconds. But they're going with this the other day. I saw a tweet. It was like the Conservatives understood the assignment. It was a scrum. They were all waiting there for the scrum. People were coming down the stairs and going to the mic and talking. And it's like, here's the assignment. Rush down the stairs, go to the mic, and no matter what's asked, punch down on Carney. And then you saw Michael Barrett, who I swear is going to get himself sued for defamation one day. Kick off that stuff. And Melissa Lantzman. And the third person, whose name I don't remember off the top of my head, coming down, and they just come to like, well, you know, Mark Carney, Mark Carney, like this. Apparently, they're trying. Their opposition research is going so poorly. They got nothing on them that they want Mark Carney voluntarily disclose everything. Whoops, the camera thing again. Hadn't happened in it. Mark Carney, disclose everything about your finances now before you have any legal obligation to do so for anything, because we think you're corrupt. Please put stuff in the public sphere that we can go through to see, that we can spin to see if you're corrupt. Give us something. The Conservatives are literally begging Mark Carney to give them information that they can twist and use against them because they've not been able to find any of it. First, it was Brooke. He moved his company to New York, the same state and city where Donald Trump is from. Donald Trump abandoned New York. If you remember, he's Florida man now. So like this, he's just like Trump. Meanwhile, you got the other guy going, Canada first. It's like, let's just say Carney is just like Trump. Because our guy is just like Trump. Maybe if we say that Carney is, maybe people won't notice that our guy is. I'm hiding. Can
tactic.
you see me? They'll never find me here.
We all
It's
saw
so
the interview with
dumb.
Rosemary Barton. Look how he responds to an interviewer who is somewhat hostile towards him. And see Mark Carney's response versus an interviewer asking Pierre Poilievre a simple question. not hostile, just a simple question. When he lies and they say, "But sir, that isn't true." "Oh, it is. It's the answer." He gets defensive immediately. This is not an individual who shows us what statesmanship is. This is not an individual who should be running a one-man parade. I'm telling you, this guy is not good for this country at all. I'm going to bring in something real quick here.
History. A high-speed rail network between
Breaking
Quebec
news.
City and Toronto with stops in Trois-Rivières, Laval, Montreal, Ottawa, and Peterborough.
High-speed
It'll
rail.
span 1,000 kilometers with 100% electric trains that will reach speeds of 300 kilometers an hour. A
This is great
reliable,
news.
efficient, high-speed rail network will be a game changer for Canadians, slashing travel times by half, getting you from Toronto to Montreal in 3 hours.
Ooh,
It'll
yes, please.
stimulate our economy, strengthen the bonds between cities and our two most populous provinces, and reduce costs for businesses while improving their productivity and competitiveness.
So I thought I'd just drop that. It's live on CPAC right now. I thought I'd throw that in there because I thought it's a pretty big announcement. I knew it was coming, but I thought it was interesting that we could show a clip of it live. He was actually started about 5 minutes ago. This is a game changer for so many people. It's going to create a ton of jobs, but not only that. No, I don't think. No, they're not going to skip Cornwall. They're going to continue. It's going to be a line that goes to Ottawa and a line that goes up right past Cornwall and into Montreal. So it'll be a Montreal line from Toronto and an Ottawa line as well. As from what I know, I could be wrong though. I could be wrong.
Yeah, yeah, because if they have a Montreal line to Toronto, that does, because then you wouldn't have to go through Ottawa.
Correct.
To do it, but they want this one to go through Peterborough, which Via does not go through anymore. Used to,
correct,
but does not go through anymore. So I'm not sure what station along the way on the other end that's not going to get hit.
Yeah, I haven't seen
but
the full route.
But they'll probably be served by the Montreal route instead of the Ottawa route.
But they've chosen, instead of going with high frequency rail, which was what was on the table for a bit.
Yes.
Which I approved of, don't get me wrong, in separate corridors for Via. Now they're just going to build a whole new high-speed electric. And could they go with maglev in the future? I don't know. I don't know what they're doing exactly, but this is great because, exactly, decreasing the need for new Ford highways.
Precisely.
Right? Not only that, you think about it. So from Toronto to Montreal in 3 hours on train, how long would it take to fly? Now, you're in the air for about 45 to 50 minutes.
But travel time to the airport,
travel time to the airport, through
security check-in.
And same thing, it's going to take you almost 5 hours.
That's the whole thing. If you could get a high-speed train, all of these short-haul flights, there's no real need for them anymore.
No. I mean, to a certain extent, they'll still exist. Yes. Somebody needs to get there immediately, but you'll be able to reduce them, which reduces pollution, which is good.
And if they could build one between Calgary and Edmonton as well.
Yes,
that's
and that is
the
actually
other population center that could use one.
They don't even have a link. There's no link at all. Zero.
No link.
So they are looking at that in Alberta. Provincially, I don't know if there's federal funds on the table for that, but it's something that should occur in Alberta, long since overdue. I can take a train to Edmonton. I cannot take a train to Calgary. There's no trains to Calgary.
Right.
Calgary has LRTs, but there's no trains to Calgary. Right. So I can take a train to Jasper, which is great.
Right.
But I can't take a train to Calgary.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way when I had to be in Red Deer.
So you can take a train to Edmonton, -40. Take a bus.
Yes, I had to be in Red Deer in -40 to give a speech to elk farmers. My life was very glamorous. Actually, I really liked that trip, to be totally honest. No, seriously. I was in Alberta. We were staying in Calgary, but it was so cold, and there was no rail link anywhere. So I was like looking up Greyhound buses. It was so cold, the Greyhound buses weren't even running that day. I actually had to take a taxi from Calgary to Red Deer and back. And it was a Saturday, so I couldn't call my employer and say, I know I have to go give this speech there, but there's actually no way to get here. And I've gotten all the way to Calgary, and I'm so close to Red Deer, but it's going to be like an extra $200 something. Can I incur this cost or not? And there was nobody to ask. So I thought, well, I sat there and I'm thinking, And this was like my first big trip
Right.
as an employee. So I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm going to go get myself fired right away. And that's like, so I made an executive decision. Says, well, if they paid 1,000 or something, whatnot, to get me into Calgary and in a hotel room so I can come and deliver this presentation to the farmers, they would probably want me to deliver those presentations for the farmers and not have that $1,000 go to waste for an extra 200. So
Right.
I did it, and I thought, you know what, I might have to eat this. But my employer fortunately did reimburse me and said I had indeed made the right decision. And because it's Alberta and these are farmers, the minus 40 didn't stop them from coming to the presentation. It was a good thing I did because it was a full house. So, but yeah, but that was that was, I have to say though, that was a really, really great trip because those farmers were the nicest people.
Oh yeah. Well,
No,
here I
seriously,
have,
I'm from Ottawa, from
yeah.
the government, and I'm here to help you. And that's
That's the thing nobody ever wants to hear, right?
exactly like this. And I actually was there to help. So, and I guess it came across.
Mm.
But nicest people. It was such a beautiful trip.
So there you
Anyway.
can see Edmonton gets covered and Jasper gets covered. And then there's a northern route, Prince George up to Prince Rupert, southern route, Kamloops to Vancouver. Nothing between Edmonton and Calgary, no rail link at all. And we do have, thankfully, Churchill, Manitoba is serviced by rail, which is great. But and you can see the corridor here, of course, which goes, they do have a train to Jonquière, which is cool because I used to live in Chicoutimi, Chicoutimi borders Jonquière. They're all L'Abbé, Baguetteville, CFB Baguetteville, Chicoutimi, Jonquière. It's all like one big community. And I think they've actually changed the name of it all, but don't even quote me on that. But you can see the Quebec City Windsor corridor here and all the stops along. So, yeah. But from Toronto to Quebec City, high speed is brilliant. And there will be, branch offs to Ottawa. To exactly what degree, I don't know.
Okay.
This is the current route map.
Okay, so this seems serious because here in the newspaper article from the CBC article about it, the consortium selected to build the line was only informed in the last 24 hours that their bid was the best of the three submitted, according to the sources that spoke to Radio-Canada. So I'm guessing they probably announced not only that it's going ahead, but that they've chosen who won the contract. So this is serious. This is happening. As Radio-Canada first reported in October, the Liberal government had opted for a high-speed train rather than a slower, high-frequency train project to transport passengers between Quebec City and Toronto. Proponents of the project hope the train will take passengers from Montreal to Toronto in 3 hours. By car, it takes 5.5. Sources told Radio-Canada in October that the train will travel 300 kilometers per hour, double the speed of Via Rail's current trains. The train is expected to use a newly built separate electrified track and run frequently. In addition to Quebec City, Montreal, and Toronto, it would serve Trois-Rivières, Laval, Ottawa, and Peterborough. Oh, good. Trois-Rivières also had lost their train service because I remember my brother used to live there. Does he still live in Trois-Rivières? Yeah, he still lives in Trois-Rivières West. Now he lives in Trois-Rivières proper. And I used to go all the time and get off in Trois-Rivières. It was just extremely convenient. And then all of a sudden it just disappeared. The tracks, I think, stayed more on the south shore for a little bit and then crossed closer to Quebec City. And therefore you couldn't stop in Trois-Rivières anymore. And then they didn't put a stop in Nicolette, which is a small town just across the river from Trois-Rivières, because they would have to build a whole station and stuff. So Trois-Rivières just lost their train service, period. Transport Canada initially estimates the cost of the high-speed rail link between the two cities as high as $80 billion. It's expected to take 4 to 5 years to design the future high-speed line, and the funds are to be allocated at the end of that time period. So it's possible a future government could modify or cancel the project,
which we hope won't happen.
Better not,
because I think the vast majority of Canadians, and again, the vast majority lives in that zone, like it or not. I know people in Alberta get pissed and go, why are there so many seats in Ontario? There should be as many as in Alberta. I'm like, because we're almost 4 times your population. You want to be represented, then move to a place where there's more people. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. There's less than 5 million people in Alberta, and there's 16,250,000 in Ontario.
Yep.
So it works that way. There's more seats because there's more people.
Yep. So Good announcement. Thank you. Thank you for breaking in with that. Now about the Mark Carney conflict thing, alleged conflict thing, because there isn't any that we know of, but the Conservatives are trying to raise the specter. In a public letter in Parliament Hill news conference Tuesday, Conservative ethics critic Michael Barrett, sir, if you are going to go out in front of a camera and make suggestions that would essentially be false witness statements, maybe ethics is not the thing you should be criticizing. Just saying. Said the timelines and existing ethics rules for cabinet ministers and the prime minister would give Mr. Carney up to 4 months after becoming prime minister before such a disclosure is made public. The perception that Mr. Carney is the frontrunner in the Liberal leadership race was strengthened Tuesday with the release of new fundraising figures showing him well ahead of both in terms of amounts raised and total number of contributions. Mr. Carney has pledged to follow all existing rules, but the Conservatives say that's not enough, given the potential for a quick turnaround between the Liberal Party announcing its new leader on March 9th and a federal election campaign launched shortly after. Quote, to be clear, the rules weren't designed for a situation like this, Mr. Barrett told reporters on Tuesday. Oh, but now suddenly you want new rules. Okay. So you had 10 years as government. That loophole was there then. But you didn't want that rule change. So but now because it's Carney and he's leading and you guys are trailing on the polls, now you want him. So let's see. We're not saying he's corrupt, but let him put everything on the table and let's see if he is. Well, we know what the Conservatives would do with that, eh? They would grab something, they'd point to it and go, see, just like they did with the Brookfield thing. He moved his thing to New York. He's just like Trump. He's betrayed it. He'll sell us out. Oh yeah, Brookfield Asset Management still remains in Toronto. That part they don't tell you. So Conservatives, one of the favorite ways, because Conservatives will just outright make shit up, pull stuff out of their ass and say it and claim it's true. They will outright state opinions as if they were facts. That's another way that they bullshit. But the other thing that they do as well, that they're very, very good at doing, is lying by sins, committing sins of omission. Telling you that the Brookfield, one part of Brookfield went to New York, but not telling you it's so that they could be registered on U.S. indices on the stock market, and not telling you that the parent company is still 100% Canadian. Now, why would a party want you to believe that something that Mark Carney is associated with went to New York, just because it went to New York and he's a sellout and had no reason for the decision at all, no business case? And why would they not tell you that this company that they're talking about has a parent company that is still headquartered in Canada? For what reason would the Conservatives, who are so ethical and love information, take information that is in the public domain and present it as other than it is by omitting two key pieces of information by that information? Why would a party want to do that?
Well,
Girls, please. You're going to take a piece of information that comes out, you're going to eliminate 2 or 3 key pieces of data from it, and you're going to present it as other than it is, and you want him to spoon feed you the information that you are going to use to twist and torque and try to destroy him and defame him. Don't be surprised if he's not all that eager to be a willing participant in that scheme. Y'all kind of have a track record. We've seen you go for the last few years.
Yeah,
we know what you do. We know why you're asking for this. We know you're not asking for this because you care about ethics and having no conflicts. I mean, have you seen you guys? I mean, Jenny Byrne, hello? Come on. This is clearly a Jenny Byrne policy.
Oh, yeah.
They found out that I'm with Loblaws and one of the biggest rental organizations. We need to find something. Because if I'm corrupt, Mark Carney must be corrupt, right? Because that's the Conservative thing, right? They can't imagine a world in which nobody is corrupt. Because they all are. They can't imagine people who are not like them. All the accusations come from that one place. Because every accusation is a confession and it's projection. He wouldn't leave a big job like that to do something that's in the best interest of the nation. Who does that? That's financially dumb. Well, you know what? Almost every single public servant has done that. Taken a low-paying job for the betterment of the country. It's not that unimaginable. But conservatives want you to believe that it's this, because he was a global elite, there must be something in it for him. Why would he take a lower-paying job?
Yeah, I think he
It certainly can't be
the country.
Certainly can't be because he cares about the country. Fuck, we don't.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Sorry.
You said the quiet part out loud, didn't you?
That's literally the conservatives.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
They just can't imagine a world in which everybody is not as corrupt as they are. And that's why they talk about everybody as if they are corrupt as they are, while denying that they are corrupt, of course. It's accuse everybody else of that which you are and that which you do.
So just going to give, it's at the Alto is the name of the project. It's Canada's largest infrastructure project ever, connecting nearly 20 million Canadians between Quebec City and Toronto with a 300 kilometer per hour high-speed rail.
There you go. Back to Mr. Carney. Said that most of the boards he was a member of in recent years were philanthropic organizations. I think we showed that yesterday in the interview. Quote, if I'm elected a Liberal leader, of course, I'm going to immediately subject myself to all the ethics guidelines, conflicts of interest guidelines, and other guidelines, he said. Emily Williams, a spokesperson for Mr. Carney's campaign, repeated that view in a statement Tuesday and did not directly respond to Mr. Barrett's recommendation. She also criticized Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre for lacking work experience outside politics. Here's the line, quote, as leader, he will work hard to earn a seat in the House of Commons where he's committed to complying with all applicable ethics rules and guidelines to ensure that his previous experience does not create any real or perceived conflicts. If Mr. Poilievre had any experience outside of partisan politics, we would call on him to meet the same standards. She said, meow. Mm-hmm. Mr. Carney announced in January that he had resigned from Brookfield Asset Management Limited and a number of other business roles in order to pursue the Liberal Party leadership. The former governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England also said at that time that he stepped down as chair of the board of media and financial data company Bloomberg LP, the board of payments processor Stripe Incorporated, an advisory board for investment giant PIMCO, and as a UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance and co-chair of the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, or GFANZ. The Conflict of Interest Act, a 2006 law that outlines the ethics rules for federal public office holders, gives individuals subjects to the act up to 60 days after taking office to make a confidential report to the ethics commissioner. So the Conservatives want him to do that now. Now, I can understand in the sense that, if he's elected leader of the Liberal Party, he will be the prime minister, even though he won't be sitting in the House.
Correct.
Yet. So therefore, okay, and who knows? Maybe once he is chosen as leader, Mark Carney will proactively put something up earlier, maybe. But right now, he's still a private citizen and a candidate. So he's bound by the exact same rules you were, Mr. Barrett, when you were running for the nomination to be the candidate in your electoral district. It's the same rules. And the Westminster parliamentary system has always allowed for the fact that a party leader could resign prior to an election. There could be a new leadership race, and the person doesn't have a seat in the House. So that quote-unquote loophole has existed as long as the Westminster parliamentary system has existed. But now we have to fix it. Okay. Conservatives. It's just rules happen just because. We have a new rule. He's got to put it out now. If he doesn't put it out, and now because he won't put it out now, of course they're going to say now it's going to be, well, what's he hiding? Right? That's why this works for the Conservatives either way, because if he puts something out that they take stuff and then they torque it like they did the Brookfield stuff to tell you a lie.
Mm-hmm.
That's easily debunkable. And if he doesn't do it, oh, well, then there must be something shady because he won't come clean. He won't go over and above. So the conservatives are sitting there like this. Well, because if he wins, he will be prime minister. He really should be going over and above and proactively doing so. We shouldn't even have to ask. Okay, you first. I'm these people.
Yeah,
These people.
pretty much.
Like,
pretty much.
you first. Why don't you tell us who's getting all the money from the merchandising for the conservative website?
Please share that with us.
Are there any international orders, and were they actually filled, or did you just take the money?
Just took the money. I wonder. That's a good question.
We
Somebody
have
should
lots of,
look into that.
we have lots of questions, and since you won't show us all the contracts and whatnot, I guess we just have to assume that they're corrupt.
Yes, we can do that. Two can play that game. We've chosen not to, but maybe we'll start doing that just because.
Because we can.
And remember, we're not on any team here other than Canada. So if you're going to try and strike her down and cut her off at the knees by labeling people with accusations that are unfounded, unwarranted, and absolutely untrue, we can do that too. I've got the latest Nanos poll for the province of Ontario. Have you seen this?
No, I have not yet. I was looking for it. I've been refreshing over and over again.
There it is. Ford's PCs maintain a double-digit lead over Liberals as campaign enters final stretch. That's the Nick Nanos survey. Ontario PC with 45.8%. They're down 0.6. The Liberals 29.7, up 2.7. NDP 15.9%, down 2.0, and the Greens at 6.7, no change.
Right.
Troubling to think that the Conservatives could win, and we even talked about it. I said he's probably going to get reelected, and it really troubles me. For a third term, for a man who should never been reelected in the first place.
I know.
I understand why he got in the first time. I get it. I knew it was going to happen no matter what. Because Andrea Horwath was a terrible candidate, and people were just tired of the Liberal government after, 16 years or 12 or 14, however long it was, after Dalton McGuinty, and then I can see her face, but I can't. Thank you, Kathleen Wynne. They were just tired of the Liberal government and wanted a regime change. Unfortunately, we brought in a corrupt idiot. And he's been in there for 2 terms, called the election early because he thinks he can win a third, and it looks like he may just. So people in Ontario, get out and vote. Because if you live in this province, and unless you're a wealthy land developer, if you think he's actually done good by the province and for the people of this province, there's nothing I can do to help you.
Right.
But if you know the truth, you've seen what he's done, how he squandered billions, then get out and vote. Vote for your own best interest. Vote for the interest of your community, your friends, your family, your neighbors. That person down the street whose child has autism, vote for them. The senior in long-term care home, vote for them. The people who are waiting for days upon days to get emergency services because the ERs are closed in communities all across the province, vote for them. People waiting to get into housing, but can't afford to buy a $500,000 developer's profiteering house, which they say is affordable, and it isn't. Vote for them. It's not time to sit on your duff.
Yep. Indeed. Interesting news from Main Street specifically. If Karina Gould won the leadership, she would be able to keep the Liberals above 100 seats as well. Probably not saying they would win, but that clearly she's viable, which is very interesting. So yeah, we have Polling Canada also mentions, because you might hear this as a narrative, there will be a giant question of whether Carney is able to keep the momentum once he's in an election or once an election is going. But people have been comparing it to 2011 with Ignatieff. One problem. Huge difference between the two. Singh is absolutely no Leighton. Layton won a big share of the vote.
Mm-hmm.
So
He did.
And Carney is no inactive as well. And
big difference there.
Pierre is no Harper.
Yeah.
As well. And Pierre's negatives. That's the other thing. Pierre's negatives. Nobody likes him. All that vote was not Justin, not pro Pierre. And now that vote is moving, if we are to believe the polling. All right. I think that is enough.
That's enough. That's enough.
Wow. You know what? Considering I thought I had a thin show, turns out not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But that's thanks to you, good sir, actually, because you had the other segment, which was very helpful, and which allowed me to bring in the brain gain story that I saw last week and was looking for an opportunity to fit in at some point. So you gave me a beautiful opening. So thank you for bringing that, sir. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us because we really appreciate it when you do. Now, if you would like to not miss an episode at all, especially our podcast version, you don't have to because, you're a busy Canadian. You're on the go. Sometimes you need us in your ears. We're portable. Thanks to the Ray Girl, who sponsors our pod page. So if you just scan that QR code that appeared, or if you're listening, go to podpage.com/the-truenortheagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. If you go there and press subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, zip, goes directly to you. No fuss, no muss, just like that. Real simple. Now, if you would like to help us in other ways, for example, maybe you would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because that helps us with the algorithm. Surf on down to True North Eager Beaver Media, and Kit Cassie and Kit Elaine will urge you to smash with our buttons. Like, share, and subscribe. Click them, flick them, lick them. It makes us very happy. Thank you so much. And if you would like to support us in yet other ways, let's say financially, because you like this show and you see the value of it, and you would like to support a 100% Canadian initiative versus the US-owned American National Post or the American Sun chain, for example, then you can do that as well by contributing to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, also known as our tip jar, at ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver. That's coffee spelled ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. If you think we did well, say add a beaver and get me a cup of hot chocolate, or add a Mr. Grizzly and buy him a nice cup of coffee. He likes it black and bitter.
Like my heart.
Yeah. The jury's still out on that one, Mr. Grizzly.
You haven't seen into my head lately.
that diamond might be a slightly scarier place, but your heart's a beautiful place, sir. From what I know of it, at least my personal experience of it. So, kids and cubs, if you would like to make a little contribution, we would appreciate that. Thank you so much. Keeps the show going, helps us keep the lights on, as we say. But if you're not able to contribute financially, please do not worry, because the gifts of your participation and the gift of your attention are the ones that matter the most to us. And we love to hear from you. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is how you can write to us and let us know what you think. Good, bad, or ugly. If ugly, please be gentle. We're delicate. We're snowflakes. But we do want to hear what you say. Constructive criticism and beautiful compliments, both are welcome. Things that you would like to see, all that good stuff. It all helps us make a better show, so thank you. And truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is also the email address to which you can send a direct transfer if you do not want to support CE Bro by going through PayPal. So just so that you have your options, because democracy is something that you do. Remember, there's a Quebec Liberal leadership race. So please find out who your candidates are there. The Ontario provincial election is definitely underway. We've got debates coming up on the, no, that's Liberal leadership debates. We've got, there is going to be a French debate. Turns out it's going to be tonight, I think, the 19th, yes. But they are not going to be, it's not going to be the party leaders who are there at all. So unfortunately, that is the case. But at least there will be something for those who are francophones. But it's really sad that
It's pathetic.
that it's not the leaders, and not a single one of the leaders as well. Like not one of the parties is sending
That's
their leader
disappointing.
to speak in French. Now, I don't know if it's the thing. Well, if Doug Ford is not going to be there, then my time is better spent elsewhere. But I'm sure I have a feeling that Merritt Stiles could probably hold her own somewhat. A little bit. I'm surprised that none of them have decided to go. But that will be tonight pour les francophones. Ce soir, le débat, entre guillemets, en français, pour l'élection d'Ontario. What else do we have here? And then, of course, Liberal leadership race, of course. Those debates are coming on the 24th and the 25th, so mark those on your calendar. Right. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom for us?
Take care of your mental health. That's all I've got today.
Very
Take care of your mental health.
Yep, absolutely. Do that. All right. Kids and cubs, it can be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, cue the cock, please, sir. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right. You got something, Mr. Grizzly?
Yeah, I got something quick that's kind of comical. I'd say the sourdough bread came out great. Bracing myself for the comments.
Ooh. Oh, my.
It's a sourdough bread, folks. Settle down. Sourdough bread.
That's a visual. Jeez.
This comment from a gentleman, I'll put it on the screen and read it to you because it's the comment from this gentleman is funny. Ma'am, what in the unholy oven blessed yeast-risen deep-carved vaginal loaf of seduction is this? I'm a gay man, and even I need to sit down and reassess my entire existence after looking at this. This ain't just bread. This is a full-blown WAP, warm artisanal pastry. Did you bake this, or did the divine goddess of fertility descend from the heavens and personally whisper her most intimate secrets into your dough? Because I swear to God, this bread is ovulating. I feel like if I stare at this too long, it's going to ask me for my credit card information and emotionally manipulate me. I don't know whether to butter it or take it to dinner first. This isn't sourdough. This is a yeast-based thirst trap, a fully fermented coochie croissant, a golden-baked pussy panini. Congratulations, you didn't just make bread, you brought new meaning to buns in the oven. Fuck. I thought that was funny.
What was the one, the double C, the something crostini?
Hang on. I'll pull it back up.
Oh my God, that was or croissant, sorry, it was croissant.
Yes, he said fully fermented coochie croissant.
Coochie croissant. Oh my God.
Some people may be offended by that, but I thought it was very funny.
That's officially my new drag name.
Coochie croissant?
Coochie croissant. Bonjour. Coochie croissant. Oh my God. That's a perfect drag name. Oh shit. I love it. That's funny. Oh my God.
I thought we should end on something funny and ribald today.
I'm glad you did. 50 Shades of Flower. Ooh, Robin Hood.
See you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.